Turn on your fans. The Fan Man 2009 underscore Q2T says, what's your opinion on Boston Harbor? Now, Boston Harbor has been making traditional fans for a long time, and Boston Harbor is the only fan brand today that you can still get a brand new 90s looking fan, traditional, not this stuff they're making today. But Boston Harbor fans are the only fans, the actual new old fans that you can still get for a decent amount of money. But would I get one? No, I would never get a Boston Harbor fan. Those fans are very cheaply made and they have cheap parts. Now, the cheapest one, which is the white spinner fan, the one that looks like the grating, that one I think is a little overpriced for what it is. But however though, here in the US, spinner fans are not very common. They're actually getting more and more rare. So the fact that you can still buy a spinner fan today that's still being made today is pretty cool. And the wattage limiters that those fans come with, they are very cheap, very cheaply made. Now if you have a Boston Harbor fan and you have the cheaply made wattage limiter, you can bypass that. Now the Ridgefield also had that same problem with the wattage limiter and the light would stop working. Now I actually had a Boston Harbor looking fan in my room before I got this fan and the previous fans I've had. It was the original fan that came with the house, and surprisingly for how old it was, it still worked. But it was on its last leg, so it was time for an upgrade. And it might have been made by air cool because on the top of the motor it did say AC. So I'm not sure if that was air cool or just another regular tag or whatever. But that fan was in horrible shape. It was covered in dust, and there was also mildew on the blades. Now, I was actually going to get a Boston Harbor fan. I was actually going to get the white and brass 52-inch one, the traditional. But after I saw the price, I just kept scrolling. And I said I am not buying a Boston Harbor fan, and I never would. And for how much those Boston Harbor fans cost, the performance could be a little bit better out of all of them. Now, even though they still have that traditional 90s style to it, I still wouldn't buy one. Now, most fans today, as you know, especially the hugger fans, all of the fan brands are going to this trend to where on the hugger fans, they're making the motor housing smaller than the fan, which I think is a stupid trend. And they're all going with these modern looks like the Quanta, and they're all making those in the same exact style, but each fan brand is giving it its own name. Now Hunter was doing that for a long time before all these other fan brands started just jumping on the bandwagon and decided to do the same thing. For example, look at the Ontario and the Bartlett. They're the same exact fans, the same look. And that's what most fan brands are doing today. And most fan brands are moving away from the traditional light bulbs. Instead, it's this hideous dome light, kind of like the Armitage, something like it. It's an integrated light, which basically means if the light goes out, it's goodbye fan. You would have to get a whole new fan. Now, you can try and spend the time to find another replacement whole light kit, but honestly, I just wouldn't bother with it. And that is exactly why I don't buy newer fans. I go strictly for older fans. And most newer fans these days have janky pull chains. Now, if I was to ever buy a newer fan, it would definitely be a Quorum fan or a Gulf Coast. Quorum and Gulf Coast are just about the best modern fan brands nowadays to get a new fan that actually performs good, especially Gulf Coast. Now, if you want a fan that has good quality and good performance, I would just get a Dixie Belle or a Tiara. But Boston Harbor, I wouldn't touch those fans with a 10-foot pole. And newer fans are also going to these same bland colors. Like, majority of the fan colors that you see nowadays that they come in is brushed nickel, aura bronze, and white. Like, that's all the finishes that you mainly see on newer fans nowadays. You really don't see cool colors like how the Incon Crayon was, or the Rocket fan, or the Baseball fan, and the Annalise. You don't see stuff like that anymore, and it's really a shame. Even the Coke fans, you don't see fans like that anymore, and it's just a shame. In newer houses these days, all you see is just Armitages, Centervilles, Hampton Bay Devrons, Rockports, the newer ones. That's really all you see in newer houses these days. Very rarely do you see newer houses with older fans like the Aristocrat or the New Orleans. You just don't see that stuff anymore, and it's just really a shame. But instead, everybody wants these boring looking modern fans that don't hold up within a year before they start becoming endless money pits and spinning piles of junk. The last newer fan that I had was a Centerville, and after that I said never again am I buying a newer fan. That thing was very problematic. And a lot of these newer fans are going to these quick connect systems, which I hate. Newer fans are starting to go away from the traditional screws. Like this. You don't see traditional screws like that on newer fans nowadays. And Hampton Bay was the first company to do that, the quick connect system. And a lot of newer fans these days are also going to DC motors, which I hate. And they're also going to weaker capacitors as well. I don't know about y'all, but I'm sticking with older fans. So if you don't want to miss a new video on my channel, remember to ring that bell.